This neglect endangers us all.
We've got you on tape. Your racist scheme ends now.
In the quiet suburbs of Oakwood Heights, an upscale neighborhood on the outskirts of Chicago, where manicured lawns stretched like green carpets and white picket fences guarded multi-million-dollar homes, a storm was brewing behind closed doors. Eleanor Harrington, the iron-fisted chairwoman of the local homeowners association, gripped her phone tightly as she spat her venom into the receiver. That little girl needs to be taught boundaries before she drags the whole community down, she snarled. On the other end, Officer Ramirez nodded along, jotting notes about what she described as a blatant threat to public safety. Little did anyone know, this petty complaint stemmed from a single act of compassion that would unravel lives and expose the ugly underbelly of prejudice in a place that prided itself on perfection. It all began the previous afternoon in Willow Park, the neighborhood's pristine green space where families picnicked under ancient oaks and joggers traced paths lined with blooming hydrangeas. 9-year-old Mia Thompson was skipping along the trail, her backpack slung over one shoulder after school, when she noticed a disheveled man slumped on a weathered bench. His coat was threadbare, his beard unkempt, and he held a faded sign that read, "Any help appreciated." Without a second thought, Mia approached him, pulling out her homemade turkey sandwich from her lunchbox. "Here, mister," she said with a bright smile, handing it over. "Mom always says sharing is caring." The man looked up, his sharp green eyes meeting hers with a warmth that belied his ragged appearance. "Thank you, young lady. That's mighty kind of you. What's your name?" "Mia," she replied, beaming. "And yours?" He hesitated for a split second before saying, "Call me Jack." As Mia chatted innocently about her day at school, across the street in her towering colonial-style home, nosy neighbor Gladys Baxter peered through her lace curtains, her smartphone already snapping photos. Within moments, the images flooded the neighborhood's private Facebook group, captioned, "See what kind of riffraff this family's exposing our kids to." Mia's mother, Sarah Thompson, a dedicated elementary school teacher who juggled 2 part-time jobs to make ends meet after her husband's sudden departure 5 years ago, returned home that evening to a barrage of notifications. Her phone buzzed relentlessly with accusatory messages, and under her front door lay a scribbled note, "Rein in your kid, or we'll handle it ourselves." Sarah's heart sank as she recognized the elegant cursivite belonged to Eleanor Harrington, the same woman who'd fought tooth and nail to block Sarah's move into Oakwood Heights 3 years prior, citing concerns about property values. But what Sarah, Mia, and the bigoted busybodies didn't realize was that the homeless man on the bench had witnessed every whisper of disdain from afar. Behind those grateful green eyes lurked a strategic mind, one honed in boardrooms and belonging to someone who could buy out the entire snooty enclave without batting an eye. As Sarah tucked Mia into bed that night, explaining gently why talking to strangers could be risky in their careful neighborhood, powerful wheels were already turning in the shadows. The man Mia had helped wasn't destitute. He was Edward Kingsley, a 62-year-old tech mogul whose software empire spanned the globe, making him one of Illinois' wealthiest residents. He'd been incognito for a week, researching urban disparities for a personal philanthropy project, blending into the streets to observe real, human interactions. Mia's unprompted generosity had touched him deeply, especially in contrast to the cold stares from passersby. Now, learning through discreet channels about the brewing harassment against her family, Edward felt a fire ignite. This wasn't just about one sandwich, it was about dismantling the facade of civility that masked deep-seated racism. The next morning dawned crisp and clear, but for Sarah, it brought chaos. A sharp knock echoed through her modest 2-story home as she poured Mia's cereal. Opening the door in her robe, she faced 2 uniformed officers flanking Eleanor Harrington, whose smug expression could curdle milk. "Ms. Thompson," the lead officer, a burly man named Jenkins, asked sternly, "We've got a complaint about child endangerment. Claims your daughter was left unsupervised around transients." Sarah's stomach twisted. "Endangerment? That's absurd. Mia was just being kind in the park yesterday." Eleanor stepped forward, waving printed photos from Gladys's post. "Exposing a child to vagrants and potential criminals is neglect, plain and simple. We've alerted Child Protective Services." Mia's small voice piped up from the kitchen doorway, her spoon frozen midair. "Mom, what's happening?" Sarah knelt to hug her, whispering assurances, but inside, rage simmered. She'd clawed her way through late-night lesson plans and weekend tutoring gigs to provide for Mia alone, only to be branded negligent by a woman who'd never known a day's hardship, living off her late husband's inheritance. For the next hour, Sarah endured a grilling. Questions about her work schedule, Mia's after-school care, even her finances. Eleanor interjected repeatedly, her voice dripping with condescension. An unattended minority child in a place like Oakwood Heights poses risks to everyone. We have standards here, standards of decency and safety. The words hung heavy, unmasking the racism Eleanor tried to veil as concern. Sarah bit back a retort, focusing on composure, but the damage was done. The officers left with promises of follow-up, and by afternoon, an official letter arrived. An investigation into parental fitness had been launched. Sarah felt the walls closing in, her mind racing with fears of losing Mia. Across town in a penthouse suite overlooking Lake Michigan, Edward Kingsley reviewed park surveillance footage on his encrypted laptop. He'd built his fortune on data security software, and now he turned those tools toward justice. "Get me everything on this Harrington woman," he instructed his chief aide over the phone. "And keep tabs on the Thompson family. No one touches that little girl." That evening, the harassment escalated. Sarah's phone rang with an anonymous caller hissing, "Uppity single mom. Pack up and leave before it gets rough for you and your kid." She recorded it, a habit born from years of subtle slights in staff meetings and parent-teacher conferences. Unbeknownst to her, Edward's private investigators were already wiretapping legally permissible channels, documenting every move. By week's end, the attacks mounted. Sarah's bank account was flagged for fraudulent activity, her car impounded over a bogus registration issue, and at school, Mia returned home in tears because playground friends were forbidden to play with her. "Why do they hate us, Mom?" Mia sobbed. Sarah held her close, masking her own despair. "Some folks fear what they don't understand, sweetie. But we won't let them change us." Desperate, Sarah reached out to her sister, a civil rights attorney in Boston. "They're systematically destroying us," she confided. "I need legal ammo." As Sarah compiled evidence-leaked group chat screenshots from a sympathetic neighbor, call logs, complaint records, Edward's team shadowed her discreetly, amassing a dossier that included Eleanor's ties to the local city councilman and a developer eyeing Oakwood Heights for luxury condos. The plot thickened. Eleanor's safety concerns were a front for gentrification, pushing out families like the Thompsons to inflate property values. Tensions peaked at a heated homeowners meeting in the community center, where Eleanor rallied a crowd with placards reading "Protect our families" and "Uphold neighborhood integrity." "Sarah Thompson," Eleanor boomed from the podium, "your reckless parenting endangers us all. It's time you found a community more fitting." Sarah, standing tall in the back, fired back, "Fitting like the segregated suburbs you grew up in? This is about race, not safety." Gasps rippled through the room. Mia, peeking from behind her mother, stepped forward bravely. "Mrs. Harrington, why don't you like me? I just shared my lunch." Eleanor's facade cracked. "Young lady, there are rules about associations in polite society. You'll learn that mixing certain elements disrupts harmony." The exchange went viral in local forums, sparking debates. Was this genuine concern or veiled bigotry? Comments flew, defending community standards, others decrying racism in affluent enclaves. Sarah left shaken but resolved, unaware that Edward Kingsley had orchestrated a turning point. The next day, a mysterious call summoned her to a sleek office downtown. Ushered into a conference room with skyline views, she gasped at the man waiting. Polished suit, groomed hair, but those unmistakable green eyes. "You're Jack." "Edward Kingsley, at your service," he said, extending a hand. "Your daughter's kindness restored my faith in humanity. Now, let's restore yours in justice." Edward laid out the evidence. Photos of Eleanor's secret meetings, transcripts of bribes from developers, audio of her slurs. "She's part of a scheme to revitalize Oakwood by ousting minority families. I've bought your block evictions start with her." Sarah's eyes widened. "Why help us?" "Because prejudice like hers destroys lives. And Mia showed me purity in a cynical world." Together, they plotted, Edward's resources would amplify Sarah's fight, turning victims into victors. The climax unfolded in the county courthouse, where Eleanor arrived smugly for a hearing on Sarah's neglect. But the judge, sweating profusely, canceled it abruptly. Sarah and Edward burst in with a phalanx of attorneys, presenting damning files. "We've got you on tape, Mrs. Harrington," Edward said coolly, playing a recording, Eleanor's voice scheming. "These outsiders dilute our values. Time for subtle removal." Financial trails revealed $200,000 in kickbacks. The judge, implicated in campaign donations, stammered denials, but Edward's net closed. Media swarmed as leaks hit the airwaves. Local elite in racist eviction plot. Eleanor's world crumbled. Charges piled up: conspiracy, harassment, corruption. She lost her home, Edward's first eviction, her assets frozen, facing a decade behind bars after a federal probe exposed a web involving the councilmen and developers. Sarah watched the news with Mia, explaining consequences without glee. "Actions have ripples, honey." Edward founded the Mia Kingsley Foundation, aiding displaced families nationwide. Sarah became its director, tripling her income and gaining time for motherhood. Their new lakeside home, a foundation gift, buzzed with life. Mia, playing with her new labradoodle, Buddy, while community events fostered unity. Months later, at the foundation's inaugural gala in the rebuilt community center on Eleanor's former lot, Mia spoke. "One small act can spark big change. Kindness isn't weakness, it's power." Sarah beamed, her struggles forged into triumph. Edward confided, "Your daughter reminded me, good prevails when we fight for it." Life normalized, but transformed. Sarah advocating, Mia inspiring, prejudice is challenged. In the end, a child's turkey sandwich toppled an empire of hate, proving justice, though delayed, arrives decisively. The Thompsons thrived, their story a beacon against injustice. What do you think about the themes of prejudice and injustice in everyday life? Have you witnessed or experienced something similar? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Take a stand on whether kindness can truly combat systemic bias, or if stronger measures are needed. Let's discuss and keep the conversation going.